She was at it again. I saw her through the trees that morning, Karen dragging my firewood across the property line like she owned the place. Every winter, she found some new excuse to take something from me. Last year, it was my generator. This year, she'd decided my stacked woodpile belonged to the HOA. I stepped out from behind the shed, arms crossed. "Morning, Karen. Forgot to ask again?" She didn't even look embarrassed. "This wood is on community property, Mike. HOA rules say it must be shared for neighborhood use." I couldn't help but laugh. "Community property? Karen, that wood came from trees on my land. I cut it, split it." "Hauled it." She rolled her eyes, tossing a log into her wheelbarrow. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. You're not above HOA policy just because you live at the edge of it." "I don't live in your HOA," I said, stepping closer. "You keep forgetting that part." She straightened up, gripping the handle of the wheelbarrow like a shield. "Everyone around here follows the same rules, whether you like it or not." That was the moment something inside me clicked. I'd tried reasoning. I'd filed complaints. I'd even shown her my property deed. Nothing worked. She only stopped when she was embarrassed, and this time I planned to make sure she'd never forget. So that night, while the cold wind rattled through the trees, I loaded up my truck and got to work. I hollowed out a few old logs, filled them with a surprise, just enough black powder to make noise, not harm. I sealed them shut and stacked them right where she always stole from. The next morning, I sat on my porch with my coffee and waited. Right on time, Karen marched over in her robe, muttering something about HOA allocations, and grabbed a few of my new logs. By the time she reached her backyard fire pit, I could hear her bragging to her husband. "See, if you just take charge, people learn respect." Then came the boom. Not an explosion big enough to hurt anyone, just a sharp, loud crack that echoed through the neighborhood and sent birds scattering into the sky. Karen screamed and dropped her mug, falling backward into the snow. I stood up slowly, hiding my smirk. My cameras caught every second. Within minutes, the neighbors came rushing out, and she started yelling, "He's trying to kill me! He's sabotaging the HOA!" I walked over calmly. "Karen," I said, "you stole from me again. That wood was marked. You can check the footage. It's all on camera." Her face twisted in shock, realizing I had proof. You can't record me without permission." "Actually," I said, "I can. This is my property. You just keep trespassing on it." She was still shaking, covered in ash, trying to salvage what was left of her pride. But I knew this was just the start, because the real explosion hadn't even happened yet. By afternoon, the rumor had already spread like wildfire. The guy on Pine Ridge tried to blow up the HOA president. That's how Karen spun it, of course. She marched straight to the sheriff's office, covered in soot, waving her arms like a Hollywood actress. I was still sipping coffee when two sheriff's cruisers rolled up my driveway. The lead deputy, Sam, stepped out shaking his head. We'd known each other for years. "Mike, please tell me you didn't do what she says you did." I smiled faintly. "Depends what she said this time," he sighed. "She claims you set explosive traps on your property to intimidate her." I chuckled. "Explosives? No, but I did get tired of her stealing from me, so I might have added a little surprise. "Can we take a look?" he asked. "Of course," I said. "Everything's on camera." We went inside and I played the footage. It showed Karen crossing the property line at dawn, dragging my logs away one by one. Clear as day. Her hands, her voice, even the part where she said, "He won't notice a few missing logs." Then the loud bang, her scream, and her yelling that I'd tried to kill her, all caught on my front yard camera. Sam watched in silence, then turned to me. "You didn't rig them with anything dangerous, right? Just hollow wood packed with a pinch of black powder. Like an old hunting decoy. Loud but harmless." He nodded, half trying not to laugh. "Well, she's gonna hate this. You didn't commit a crime. She trespassed, stole your property, and set it off herself." Karen must have been waiting outside because the second he stepped out, she started yelling again. "He's lying! He's manipulating the footage. You have to arrest him!" Sam crossed his arms. "Karen, we verified the timestamps. That's your voice. Your prints are on the wood we recovered." She froze, realizing her story was falling apart. "So you're not going to do anything?" "Oh, we are," he said flatly. We're filing trespassing and theft reports. Against you. Her face twisted with disbelief. You can't do that! I'm the HOA president. He looked unimpressed. Doesn't make you above the law. She tried to backpedal, pointing toward me. He's dangerous. He's ex-military. He knows how to make things explode. I gave a slow nod. Yeah, I do. That's why I made sure it was safe, Sam smirked. Smart move, soldier. Next time, just call us sooner. Karen's rage finally cracked into panic. You can't let him get away with this. The HOA won't stand for it. Sam's tone changed. Funny thing about that, Karen. I called the county earlier. Your HOA license expired 2 years ago. You've been enforcing fake rules on people who don't even owe you anything. Her eyes went wide. That's impossible. But it wasn't. And the moment she realized her power meant nothing, that's when I knew the real battle was just beginning. Karen stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. My HOA is real, she shouted, voice cracking. We have rules, members, meetings, everything. Sam raised an eyebrow. Then explain why the county has no record of it. You've been collecting dues illegally, Karen. That's fraud. She turned to me, desperate. You did this. You called them. I shrugged. No, you did this to yourself. You kept pushing everyone around until someone finally said, enough. The other deputy handed Sam a small folder they'd brought from the cruiser. You might want to see this. We pulled complaints from 3 other neighbors. Same story. She fined them, threatened liens, even told one family she'd tow their RV if they didn't pay. Sam flipped through the pages and whistled. Wow, she's been running her own little dictatorship here. Karen started backing up, shaking her head. You're twisting this! I was protecting the neighborhood! Someone had to keep order. Order? I said quietly. Or control? Her face went pale. You think you're so clever because you filmed me? You're just a bitter old vet who can't follow the rules. I smiled faintly. Maybe. But I fought for the right to live on my land without someone like you telling me how to stack my firewood. Sam stepped closer. Karen, we'll need you to come down to the station for questioning, she snapped. I'm not going anywhere. You can't touch me. But before she could take another step, the second cruiser door opened, and out stepped a man in a suit carrying a case file. He looked straight at Karen and said, Actually, ma'am, you will be coming with us. I'm from the State Fraud Division. We've been looking for you for months. Karen's face drained of color. What are you talking about? He opened the file and showed her a photo. Her picture, attached to reports from 2 other towns. You've done this before, haven't you? Created fake HOAs, extorted money, and disappeared when people caught on. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You don't have proof. Oh, we do, he said calmly. And now, thanks to this man's footage, he nodded toward me, we have everything we need. The neighborhood was quiet, except for the hum of the cruisers. A few neighbors peeked out from their porches, whispering. Karen's perfect reputation was crumbling in front of everyone she'd bullied. She tried to hold her head high, but her voice was trembling. You can't arrest me. I was just following the rules. The agent closed the folder. No, ma'am. You were making them up. As they led her toward the car, she glared at me one last time. You think you've won? This isn't over. I met her eyes and said softly, It is for you. When the agents entered Karen's house later that evening, the entire neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. Flashlights swept across walls filled with binders, folders, and handwritten HOA regulations. But that wasn't the shocking part. In the living room, one officer called out, You guys might want to see this. Spread across the dining table were stacks of property maps, fake invoices, and envelopes stuffed with cash, labeled with names of nearby residents. Sam whistled low. Well. She was running a full-blown racket. One of the agents lifted a tablet, showing emails Karen had sent under the alias KarenLaws@CommunityWatch.net. Each message was to people in different counties. Identical wording, identical threats. Failure to comply with HOA standards will result in a $500 violation fee. The same scam over and over, but then something else caught my eye. On the corner of the table was a dusty file labeled Hollow Creek Ranch. That was my grandfather's old property, the same land I'd inherited. I frowned and opened it. Inside were forged property lines showing that part of my land belonged to her non-existent HOA. She'd been trying to claim it before I even moved back. Sam leaned over my shoulder. She was planning this for months. I nodded slowly. She must have thought I'd sell once she pressured me enough. Another officer approached, holding a framed certificate from the wall. "You'll want to see this too." It read, "President, Hollow Creek Homeowners Association, founded by Karen L. Brooks." It even had a fake county seal printed on it. Sam shook his head. Unbelievable. She forged everything, right down to the letterhead. As they gathered the evidence, a quiet knock came from the door. It was Mrs. Henson, one of the oldest residents in the area, a soft-spoken widow who'd barely ever talked. "She came to my house last year," Mrs. Henson said softly. "Told me if I didn't pay $300, she'd report me for having chickens. I gave her the money. I was too scared not to." Her hands trembled as she handed me a wrinkled receipt, signed by Karen herself. Sam looked furious. "We'll make sure you get that back, ma'am." Mrs. Henson smiled faintly at me. "Thank you, son. Not many stand up to her." I looked at her, then at the house filled with proof of Karen's lies. "She thought fear made her powerful," I said. "But truth makes her powerless." Outside, as the sun set over the hills, Karen sat handcuffed in the cruiser, staring blankly ahead, while the agents carried out box after box of evidence. Sam turned to me and said, "You know, without your video, she'd probably still be running this scam." I gave a small nod. "I didn't plan to expose her. I just wanted to be left alone," he smiled. "Well, now the whole county knows who really owns this land." A week later, the county courthouse was packed. Neighbors who had once stayed quiet now filled the benches, whispering as Karen was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. The same woman who used to bark orders and threaten everyone now looked small, her perfect hair gone, her confidence shattered. The judge's gavel struck once. "Mrs. Brooks, you stand accused of fraud, extortion, and impersonating a public official. How do you plead?" Karen's voice cracked. "Guilty." "Your Honor," the crowd gasped. Even I didn't expect her to admit it so fast. The judge continued, "All fake HOA operations under your name are hereby terminated. All collected funds will be returned to the rightful residents." I could almost feel the weight lift from the room. People began smiling, whispering thanks, some even tearing up. After the hearing, the sheriff approached me outside. "You know, most folks would have lost everything. You handled it the right way." I shrugged lightly. "I didn't fight back with anger. I fought with proof." He grinned. "That's what real strength looks like." As I walked back to my land, the air felt cleaner, quieter. The fake HOA signs had been taken down, replaced by nothing but open sky and peace. My old cabin stood proudly again, the way my grandfather left it. I stacked a few of the leftover hollow logs by the fire pit, this time just filled with air, a reminder of how close I came to losing everything. Mrs. Henson came by holding a pie. "The neighborhood feels safe again," she said softly. "Because someone finally stood up," I smiled. "It wasn't just me. The truth stood up for all of us," she nodded. "Still, you lit the fuse." That night, as the fire crackled, I watched the embers drift upward, little sparks disappearing into the stars, and I thought about all the people Karen had scared, all the lies she'd built, and how easily they'd crumbled when faced with truth. In the end, it wasn't the gunpowder or the trap that destroyed her. It was her own arrogance, because she thought she owned the land. But this land had always owned the truth.